Chapter 1, The Curse Theory. Billy Granger did not believe in curses. Not professionally, anyway. He believed in cause and effect, in statistics, in patterns that repeated themselves often enough to be depressing but not often enough to be interesting. Curses implied intention. The universe, as far as Billy could tell, didn't intend much of anything. And yet, at 34 years old, Billy had never been in what could confidently be described as a relationship. He had dated, technically. He had gone on exactly 7 first dates in his adult life, 3 of which ended with polite hugs that felt like apologies, 2 with mutually agreed on coffee refills and no follow-up, 1 with a woman who spent the entire evening showing him photos of her dog's Halloween costumes, and 1 with a woman who left halfway through the appetizer to take a call and never returned. Still, curses felt like a simpler explanation than reality. Billy was not unattractive. He wasn't stunning, but he was solidly acceptable, tall enough, reasonably fit, with kind eyes that people commented on in passing. He dressed plainly but cleanly. He spoke thoughtfully. He listened, which most people claimed to want and then appeared startled by when they got it. He wasn't an introvert, exactly. Crowds didn't exhaust him. He could make small talk. He enjoyed people. But he also enjoyed silence in a way that felt like relief rather than escape. He liked mornings before the world started asking questions of him. He liked long walks without headphones. He liked being alone without feeling lonely. Women seemed to like him too, briefly. That was the confusing part. They laughed when he spoke. They leaned in. They stayed for the whole conversation. But when Billy suggested exchanging numbers, something always shifted, as though he had stepped slightly out of frame. "Oh, I'm terrible at texting. I'm actually kind of seeing someone. I just got out of something and I'm not really sure," followed by a number that rang once and then forever went to voicemail. After enough repetitions, Billy stopped wondering what he was doing wrong and started wondering what invisible rule he was violating. Dating apps had been his last experiment. He tried them earnestly, carefully. He chose photos where he looked like himself, no sunglasses, no group shots where you had to guess which one he was. His bio was honest without being self-pitying. He liked hiking, pottery, badly, and historical podcasts. He wrote in complete sentences. In 6 months, he got 2 matches. One was a bot offering discounted vacation packages to Cancun. The other unmatched him mid-conversation, right after he asked what her favorite book was. Billy stared at the phone for a full minute before deleting the app. He didn't need a glowing rectangle quietly confirming his suspicions. So he tried real life, pottery classes, where he learned that clay had an alarming ability to collapse under pressure, much like his confidence. A reading club at the library, where discussions were lively and warm and ended with everyone dispersing in neat, efficient groups that never included him. Volunteer work for a local charity, where he sorted donations beside friendly, kind women who talked about their partners while thanking him for being such a good listener. Everyone liked Billy. No one chose Billy. By the time his older sister brought it up again, Billy was tired. They were sitting around the dining table at their parents' house, plates pushed aside, coffee cooling. His younger sister was scrolling on her phone. His older sister had that look, the one that meant she had been thinking about him without asking permission. "You know," she said casually, "you'd be a really great boyfriend." Billy snorted softly. Strong opening. "I'm serious. So am I." His younger sister looked up. "You're still single. Excellent observation. You don't have to be," his older sister pressed. "You just don't try hard enough." Something inside Billy tightened. Not anger, exactly, but the slow ache of being misunderstood too often. "I do try," he said. She waved a hand. "You say that." "I do," he repeated, firmer now. His younger sister tilted her head. "Okay then, what have you actually tried?" Billy exhaled through his nose. He hadn't meant to make a speech, but the words had been waiting. "Dating apps," he said, "for half a year. 2 matches. One was a robot. The other disappeared when I asked about books. They both stilled. Local events," he continued. "Pottery classes, reading club, volunteering. I talk to people. They like me. We get along. And then nothing." "That can't be everyone," his older sister said. "It is," Billy replied calmly. "Every time." His younger sister frowned. "What about numbers?" "They give them," he said. "They just don't work." Silence stretched. Billy didn't rush to fill it. Finally, his older sister spoke more softly. "Maybe you're just missing something." He looked at her then, really looked. No malice. Just certainty. The kind that came easily when the problem wasn't yours. "Then prove it," Billy said. Both sisters blinked. "Prove it," he repeated. "If you think I'm doing something wrong, show me how to do it right. Because I've tried everything I can think of." His younger sister grinned slowly. "Are you challenging us?" "I am," Billy said. "It's easy to nag. It's harder to help." The grin widened. His older sister leaned back, folding her arms. "Fine, fine," echoed the younger one. Billy took a sip of cold coffee, unaware that he had just handed control of his love life to 2 women who shared his DNA and none of his restraint. Somewhere deep down, the curse theory wavered. Not broken, but reconsidering. Chapter 2, The Sisters Accept the Challenge. By the time Billy realized his sisters were serious, it was already too late. They did not discuss his challenge further at the table. That should have been his first warning. Instead, they exchanged a look, one of those efficient, wordless communications that had been perfected in childhood, and moved on to dessert as if nothing momentous had occurred. Billy drove home afterward with a faint, uneasy feeling that he had just agreed to something without reading the fine print. The feeling proved accurate the following Saturday morning. When his phone rang at 8:30, he stared at it from the kitchen counter, where coffee was still in the process of becoming tolerable. "Too early," he muttered, but he answered anyway. "Get dressed," his younger sister said. She sounded energetic in a way that suggested premeditation. "Why?" "Because we're starting." "Starting what?" "The experiment." Billy closed his eyes. "I didn't agree to an experiment. You challenged us," his older sister cut in, calm and triumphant. "We accepted." "I said prove it," Billy replied. "I didn't say today." "That's what people say when they're stalling," the younger sister said cheerfully. "We'll be there in 20. The line went dead. Billy stared at his phone, then at his half-finished coffee, then at the quiet of his apartment, which already felt like it was retreating. They arrived in 19 minutes. His younger sister burst in first, coat still on, eyes scanning him like a problem that had finally been assigned. His older sister followed more slowly, surveying the apartment with thoughtful disapproval. "You look the same," the younger one announced. "Thank you," Billy said. "That's not a compliment." "I know." His older sister set her bag down. "We've talked it over." Billy leaned against the counter. "That sentence has never once led to peace." "We're giving ourselves 1 month," she continued. 30 days. That's enough time to determine whether the issue is circumstance or presentation. "Presentation," Billy echoed flatly. "You're not broken," she said. "But you are invisible. I'm standing right here." "Exactly." The younger sister snapped her fingers. "Okay, ground rules. Rule 1. You don't argue with us." Billy laughed once. "No. Rule 2, she continued undeterred. You do what we say when we say it without sulking." "I don't sulk." "You withdraw quietly and make us feel guilty," the older sister said. "It's worse." Billy opened his mouth, then closed it. "That's fair," he admitted. "Rule 3, the younger sister said. We track progress." She pulled out a notebook already labeled. Billy squinted. "Is that a scoreboard?" "Yes." "What are the categories?" She flipped it open. Compliments received. Numbers exchanged. Follow-up messages. Dates secured. Billy winced. "That feels invasive." "It's data," his older sister said. "You believe in data." "I believe in accurate data," Billy replied. "This feels personal." "That's the point," the younger sister said brightly. Billy rubbed his face. "And what happens at the end of the month?" "If you're still single," his older sister said, "we reassess." "And if I'm not?" The younger sister grinned. "Then you buy us dinner and admit we're geniuses." Billy considered this. "Fine," he said. "But I have conditions." They both looked surprised. "I don't lie," Billy continued. "I don't pretend to be someone I'm not. I don't insult myself for laughs. And I don't go on dates where the only reason is that you think someone is appropriate." The older sister nodded slowly. "Agreed." The younger sister hesitated. "Define appropriate." "Compatible," Billy said. "Not impressive." She sighed. "You're no fun." "You already knew that." They began immediately. Step 1, according to them, was assessment. This involved sitting Billy on the couch while they took turns asking questions as if he were applying for a loan. "What do you think women notice first about you?" the younger sister asked. "Probably that I'm there," Billy said. "That's not an answer." "My height," he offered. "Sometimes my voice." "Too vague," she said. "What do you like about yourself?" Billy frowned. "I'm reliable." "Romantic," she said dryly. "I'm thoughtful." "Better." "I don't play games." Both sisters paused. "That," the older one said carefully, "might be part of the problem." Billy straightened. "How is not playing games a problem?" "It isn't," she said. "But it means you assume other people aren't either." The younger sister snapped her fingers again. "Yes, you take everything at face value. You don't flirt." "I talk." "You converse," she corrected. "Flirting is adjacent." Billy considered this. "I thought flirting was just being rude, but charmingly." The younger sister laughed. "Oh, we have work to do." They moved on to his wardrobe. Billy opened his closet with mild dread. It contained neat rows of shirts in neutral colors, jeans that fit properly, and shoes that had never betrayed him. His younger sister stared. "Do you own Joy?" "These are comfortable." "They're apologetic," she said. "They don't need to apologize," Billy replied. "They're shirts." The older sister intervened. "We're not changing your style. We're refining it." "That sounds like a trap." "It's tailoring," she said. "Metaphorically." The younger sister pulled out a sweater. "This has potential. I wear that when it's cold." "Exactly," she said. "You only look interesting when you're defending against the elements." By noon, they had a pile of acceptable, a pile of questionable, and one shirt that the younger sister held up like evidence. This has to go. It's clean. It's from college. So am I. She dropped it into the discard pile. They broke for lunch, during which Billy discovered that his sisters had already started reaching out to people. Who are you texting? He asked. Network, the younger sister said vaguely. His older sister met his eyes. We're not setting you up blindly. We're gathering options. I didn't agree to blind dates. They won't be blind, she said. They'll be curated. Billy sighed. This is already a mistake. And yet, the younger sister said, you're still here. That night after they left, with plans, charts, and an alarming shared calendar invitation, Billy sat alone on his couch. His apartment felt different, less neutral, as if something had been moved slightly off-center. He thought about the scoreboard, about the word invisible, about the month ahead, already filling with color-coded blocks he hadn't approved. He didn't feel hopeful, but he felt engaged, which was new. Somewhere, faintly, the curse theory cracked again. Not shattered, not disproven, but challenged. And for the first time in a long while, Billy wondered what would happen if he stopped trying to disappear inside his own patience. Not loudly, just enough to be seen. Chapter 3, Makeover My Brother? Unfortunately, Billy learned two things very quickly. The first was that his sisters considered preparation to be an ongoing state rather than a discrete event. The second was that they had absolutely no intention of easing him into it. The text arrived at 9:42 on Tuesday morning, while Billy was at work, calmly reorganizing a spreadsheet that did not need reorganizing. Older sister, tonight, after work, wear something neutral. Billy, everything I own is neutral. Younger sister, exactly. Don't ruin it. Billy stared at the screen, then locked his phone and returned to his spreadsheet, which had now developed a suspicious number of unnecessary columns. They met at his apartment at 6. His younger sister arrived carrying garment bags like trophies. His older sister brought coffee and an air of professional resolve. This is not a makeover, the older sister said immediately, as though Billy had accused her. It feels like a makeover, Billy replied, eyeing the garment bags. It's an adjustment, she said. Makeovers imply erasure. We're not erasing you. We're editing, the younger sister added. For clarity, Billy opened his mouth, closed it, and stepped aside to let them in. They started with grooming. You have good hair, his younger sister said, circling him. But you let it do whatever it wants. It behaves, Billy said. It resigns, she corrected. She took photos on her phone from several angles. Why do you need pictures? Billy asked. Baseline, she said. Science. I don't consent to being studied. You challenged us, his older sister reminded him gently. The haircut appointment was already booked. Billy didn't remember agreeing to that either. The salon was bright and smelled like citrus and confidence. Billy sat in the chair, draped in black, while his sisters conferred behind him like consultants. No drastic changes, the older sister said. But we need shape, the younger one argued. He looks like a man who apologizes when he orders coffee. I don't. Yes, you do, both sisters said in unison. The stylist smiled kindly at Billy in the mirror. What are we thinking? Something that says approachable, the older sister said. But intentional, the younger added. The stylist nodded as if this made perfect sense. Billy closed his eyes. When it was over, he didn't look like a different person, which unsettled him more than he expected. His hair fell in a way that suggested forethought. His face looked awake. The stylist handed him a mirror and Billy tilted it, studying angles he usually avoided. You look good, the stylist said simply. Billy nodded. Thank you. Felt strange to accept. Next came clothes. The garment bags revealed pieces that looked suspiciously like his existing wardrobe, but better. Sweaters with structure. Shirts that fit his shoulders without clinging apologetically to his torso. Colors that still counted as neutral but seemed to mean it. This one, the younger sister said, holding up a charcoal jacket. That's a jacket, Billy said. It's a layer, she replied. Layers imply depth. I have depth. You hide it behind fleece, she said. They dressed him like an exhibit. Billy stood in front of the mirror again, hands at his sides, uncertain where to put them. You're slouching, the older sister said. I always slouch. Stop. Billy straightened, just slightly. Something shifted. Not dramatically, but enough that his reflection looked back at him as if asking a question instead of offering an apology. Okay, the younger sister said. Now the worst part. Billy braced. What's the worst part? Photos. No. Yes. I don't take pictures. You exist, she countered. This is documentation. They marched him outside. The light was wrong, then too right, then wrong again. His younger sister directed him with alarming enthusiasm. Turn your shoulders. No, the other way. Chin up. Not like that. Like you're listening. I am listening. To someone interesting, she clarified. This feels fake, Billy said. Authentic doesn't mean accidental, the older sister said. Relax your hands. I don't know what my hands are doing. They never do, the younger sister said. Just pockets. Billy put one hand in his pocket. Not both, she snapped. You're not waiting for a bus. A woman walked past with her dog and glanced at them. Billy looked away instinctively. Don't, his younger sister said. Eye contact. The woman smiled briefly. Billy nodded back, surprised. The woman slowed. Are you filming something? No, the younger sister said. We're fixing him. The woman laughed. Good luck. She started to walk away, then paused. For what it's worth, you look nice. Billy blinked. Oh, thank you. She smiled again, warmer this time, then continued down the street, dog trotting happily beside her. Billy stood very still. His younger sister's eyes lit up. Did you feel that? I felt acknowledged, Billy said cautiously. Yes, she hissed. That's what I'm talking about. That was a stranger, Billy said. Exactly. They finished the shoot before Billy could overthink it. Back inside, the older sister reviewed the photos with a critical eye. These will work, she said. For what? Billy asked. Visibility, she replied. They sat him down at the table afterward, coffee cups between them, the air buzzing with productivity. We're updating your profiles, the younger sister announced. I deleted them. We know, she said. We're resurrecting them. Billy sighed. I don't want to lie. You won't, the older sister said. You'll just stop underselling. They rewrote his bio together. Billy protested phrasing. They negotiated. No self-deprecation. The younger sister insisted. I'm realistic. You're preemptively apologizing, she said. Stop. When it was done, Billy read it back. It sounded like him, just clearer. They uploaded the photos. Billy leaned back in his chair, exhausted. Is this supposed to make me feel different? He asked. It's not about feeling different, the older sister said. It's about letting people see you before you retreat. I don't retreat. You fade, she said gently. The younger sister checked her phone. Okay, phase 1 complete. Billy stared at the ceiling. There are phases. Always, she said. Later that night, alone again, Billy caught his reflection in the hallway mirror. He paused. Not because he looked extraordinary, but because he looked present. His phone buzzed on the counter. A notification. He hesitated before picking it up. One new match. Billy stared at the screen, pulse steady but attentive. Maybe the curse hadn't been broken, but something small, undeniable had shifted. Not luck, not magic, just light. And Billy, for the first time in a long while, didn't step out of it. Chapter 4. The setups begin. Billy's sisters believed deeply in momentum. Billy believed in breakfast. These beliefs collided on Saturday morning when his phone chimed at 7:45 with a calendar alert he did not remember approving. Event. Coffee. Location. Somewhere with seating. Notes. Be open. Billy stared at the screen. Be open to what? He asked his empty kitchen. The answer arrived moments later in the form of his younger sister's voice message. Okay, this one's low pressure. Very normal. Very you. Just coffee. You'll like her. Probably. Probably is doing a lot of work there, Billy muttered. But he showered, dressed in one of the newly approved outfits, and left anyway. The cafe was bright and busy in the way Billy didn't mind background noise without obligation. He arrived 5 minutes early, ordered coffee, and chose a table near the window. He waited. At 8:03, a woman approached, scanning the room with purpose. She spotted him and smiled in clear recognition. Billy? She asked. Yes, he said, standing. You must be Karen, she said, shaking his hand briskly. Your sister told me so much about you. Billy sat slowly. She did. Oh yes, Karen said cheerfully. She said you're reliable and kind and a good listener. Billy nodded. Those things are accurate. Karen laughed. That's refreshing. They talked easily enough. Karen worked in marketing. She enjoyed hot yoga. She spoke quickly and decisively, as if afraid pauses might become awkward if left unattended. Billy listened. He asked questions. She answered them thoroughly. After 40 minutes, Karen checked her watch. This was nice, she said. You're very sweet. Billy recognized the tone. It lived somewhere between fondness and conclusion. I enjoyed it, he said honestly. She smiled again, polite but complete. I think we're looking for different things. Billy nodded. That makes sense. They parted amicably. As Billy stepped back onto the sidewalk, his phone buzzed. Younger sister. How did it go? Billy typed back. Billy, pleasant. No sparks. A moment later, older sister. That's still data. Billy slipped his phone into his pocket and kept walking. The next date happened on Tuesday. This one was dinner. This is a better fit, his older sister assured him beforehand. More aligned values. What values? Billy asked. Books, she said confidently. The restaurant was quieter, dimly lit, serious about its bread. The woman, Lena, was already seated. She smiled when he approached, warm but cautious. They ordered. They talked about books. They talked about podcasts. They talked about childhood pets. At one point, Lena tilted her head. "You're very easy to talk to." Billy smiled faintly. "So I've been told." There was a pause. Not uncomfortable. Just empty. Lena broke it. "Can I be honest? Please. I think you'd be a wonderful partner," she said. "Just not for me." Billy laughed softly. "That seems to be a theme." She winced. "I'm sorry. It's okay," he said. "I appreciate the clarity." They finished dinner kindly. On the walk home, Billy felt neither crushed nor hopeful. Just tired. By Friday, the scoreboard had numbers on it. Compliments, several. Numbers exchanged, a few. Follow-up messages, fewer. Dates secured, 3. "You see," his younger sister said over video call. "Progress. It feels the same," Billy replied. "That's because you're used to 0, she said. "Anything above that feels weird." The 4th date wasn't even a date. His sisters insisted he attend a small gallery opening downtown. Culture adjacent, his younger sister called it. Billy went alone. The gallery buzzed softly, voices overlapping in a way that felt intentional. Art lined the walls, abstract, thoughtful, occasionally confusing. Billy drifted. He paused in front of a painting composed mostly of gray, interrupted by a single streak of blue. "I don't get it," a voice said beside him. Billy turned. The woman was standing just close enough to count as company without intrusion. She had dark hair pulled back loosely and wore a coat she hadn't taken off yet. "Me neither," Billy said. She smiled. "That's reassuring." They stood together, silent, looking. "It feels patient," Billy said finally. She glanced at him. "The painting. Yes, I like that," she said. "Patient art." They moved on together without discussing it. They didn't exchange names. They didn't make plans. They talked about nothing and everything, about the strange pressure to like things correctly, about how some rooms felt different depending on who was in them, about coffee shops that overstayed their welcome. When Billy realized he was laughing, genuinely, it startled him. Eventually, she checked her phone. "I should go." "Me too," Billy said. They stood near the door, uncertain. "Well," she said, "this was nice." "It was," Billy agreed. She hesitated. "Maybe I'll see you around." "Maybe," Billy said. She left. Billy stood there longer than necessary, feeling oddly light. Outside, his phone buzzed again. "Younger sister. Anyone interesting?" Billy typed. "Billy, met someone. Not a setup." There was a pause. Then, "Older sister. That doesn't count." Billy smiled despite himself. The next few days blurred into a rhythm of introductions and expectations. One woman liked that Billy was stable, but wished he were more spontaneous. Another admired his thoughtfulness but wanted someone more assertive. A third canceled last minute with a sincere apology and a vague promise to reschedule that never materialized. Through it all, Billy noticed something new. He wasn't shrinking. He wasn't apologizing for the space he occupied. He was showing up. And then, on Thursday evening, he saw her again. The woman from the gallery. She was standing in line at a small bookstore cafe, arguing gently with the barista about oat milk. Billy smiled before he could stop himself. He stepped closer. "It's a losing battle," he said. "They ran out an hour ago." She turned, recognition blooming into surprise. "Patient art guy," she said. "Milk realist," he replied. She laughed. "Hi. Hi." They ordered coffee. This time they sat. "This still doesn't count as a date," she said, stirring her cup. "I wasn't trying to count," Billy said. "Good," she replied. "I don't like being counted." They talked again, easier now, familiar without being presumptuous. Her name was Claire. She worked nearby. She liked walking without destinations. She hated dating apps. "Too much noise," she said. "Everyone performing." Billy nodded. "I know that feeling." They didn't exchange numbers. Not yet. When Billy got home, his phone buzzed. "Younger sister. Status update?" Billy stared at the screen, then typed. "Billy, I'm fine." He set the phone down without sending anything else. For the first time since the experiment began, Billy felt something unexpected. Not hope, not fear. Just the quiet sense that something unscripted had entered the story. And that maybe, just maybe, the curse had never been about being unwanted. Maybe it had been about waiting for something that didn't arrive on schedule. Chapter 5, The Woman Who Wasn't a Plan. Billy's sisters did not like Claire. This would have mattered more if they had actually met her. Instead, they disliked her conceptually, which was somehow worse. "She's not vetted," the younger sister said over the phone, pacing audibly. "We don't know anything about her." "I know her," Billy replied, sitting at his kitchen table with a mug he'd reheated twice without drinking. "She's thoughtful. She listens. She argues politely about oat milk." "That's not a personality," the older sister said. "That's a grocery list." Billy smiled despite himself. "You'd like her." "That's not the point," the younger sister insisted. "She's not part of the plan." Billy leaned back in his chair. "I don't remember agreeing that everything had to be." There was a pause. The older sister cleared her throat. "We just don't want you to confuse coincidence with compatibility." "It doesn't feel like coincidence," Billy said. It's been, what, 2 conversations? The younger sister countered. 4, Billy corrected. And a lot of silence. Silence, it turned out, was where things were happening. Billy and Claire kept running into each other. Not dramatically, not improbably, but just often enough to feel intentional without being forced. The bookstore cafe. A quiet stretch of the Riverwalk. Once, outside a small grocery store, both reaching for the same basket. They never announced plans. They never labeled anything. They walked. They talked. Sometimes they didn't. Claire had a way of letting moments stretch without rushing to fill them, which made Billy feel less like he was being tested and more like he was being trusted. One evening, they sat on a low concrete wall overlooking the river, legs dangling, coats pulled tight against the early spring chill. I think people underestimate how hard it is to be unremarkable, Claire said suddenly. Billy glanced at her. Unremarkable. Yes, she said. Not exceptional. Not tragic. Just here. He considered this. I've spent most of my life trying not to be a problem. She turned toward him. You're not. I know that logically, Billy said, but there's something comforting about not demanding attention. Claire smiled faintly. Until you want it. He didn't answer right away. That's the part people don't talk about, he said finally. How wanting something doesn't make you louder. It just makes you more aware of the quiet. She nodded. That's very you. Billy laughed softly. You don't actually know me that well. I know enough, she said. You notice things. You wait. You don't interrupt. He watched the river move, steady and indifferent. You make it sound like a flaw, he said. I don't think it is, Claire replied. I think it just needs the right audience. Billy felt that land somewhere careful and exact inside him. They still hadn't exchanged numbers. It wasn't intentional avoidance. It just hadn't happened. Every time Billy thought about asking, the moment felt complete already, like adding punctuation where none was needed. His sisters, however, were unconvinced. This is regression, the younger sister declared during a Sunday check-in. You're back to casual wandering and philosophical bonding. I'm not wandering, Billy said. I'm present. That's not measurable. Neither is happiness, his older sister sighed. We're just worried you're settling. Billy looked at the scoreboard they'd left on his fridge. A relic now, its numbers no longer updated. For what? He asked quietly. What am I settling from? They didn't answer immediately. Later that week, the younger sister set him up on another date anyway. This one's important, she said. Don't cancel. Billy went. The woman, efficient, charming, impeccably styled, asked him all the right questions and waited the appropriate amount of time for his answers. Halfway through dinner, Billy realized he was performing. Not badly, just externally. So, she said, smiling, what are you looking for? Billy thought of Claire, sitting beside him without expectation. I'm not sure, he said honestly. Something that feels unforced. She blinked. You don't believe in effort? I believe in mutual effort, Billy said. Not convincing. Her smile thinned slightly. They finished the meal politely. On the walk home, Billy didn't feel disappointed. He felt relieved. The next time he saw Claire was on a Thursday afternoon, unplanned and unscheduled. She was sitting at an outdoor table, notebook open, coffee untouched. Billy slowed. You look like you're arguing with the page, he said. She glanced up and smiled. I am losing. He sat without asking. They talked about writing, how some days the words lined up and other days they resisted like stubborn furniture. At one point, Claire closed her notebook. Can I ask you something? She said. Always. Why haven't you asked for my number? Billy blinked. I was wondering when that would come up. And? She prompted. I didn't want to rush, he said, or ruin what we had by making it something else. She studied him. You know it can be both. He nodded slowly. I'm learning that. She slid her phone across the table. Here. Billy took it, heart steady but alert, and typed his number. When he handed it back, their fingers brushed, light, unremarkable, electric. That night, his phone buzzed with a message. Claire, you're very patient. Billy, only when it feels worth it. Claire, it does. Billy stared at the screen longer than necessary. When his younger sister texted 10 minutes later, update, Billy didn't answer. He wasn't hiding. He just didn't feel the need to report. For the first time since the experiment began, Billy realized something quietly revolutionary. He didn't want to be managed. He wanted to be met. And somewhere between unscheduled coffee and unmeasured silences, he had been. Not because of a plan, but in spite of one. Chapter 6, Interference. The problem with plans was not that they existed. It was that they grew teeth. Billy realized something was wrong on a Tuesday evening when he arrived at the bookstore cafe, his and Claire's unofficial place, and found her already there, seated stiffly, hands wrapped around a cup she wasn't drinking. She looked up when he approached, but her smile didn't quite arrive. Hey, Billy said, slowing. Everything okay? Hi, Claire replied. Can we talk? Billy sat. Of course. There it was. That careful tone. Not angry, not cold, just guarded. Claire took a breath. I ran into your sister today. Billy blinked. Which one? Does it matter? He winced. Probably not. She gave a short laugh that held no humor. She was very friendly. That's ominous. She asked me how long we'd been seeing each other. Billy frowned. She what? And then, Claire continued, eyes steady on his, she asked whether I was serious about you. Billy felt heat creep up his neck. I'm sorry. She shouldn't have. She told me, Claire went on, that this whole thing started as a project. Silence fell between them, heavy and exact. Billy opened his mouth, closed it, then tried again. It wasn't like that. Not with you. But it was like that, Claire said gently. At least at the beginning. Yes, Billy admitted. But, and she told me, Claire continued, that I wasn't part of the plan. Billy's shoulders slumped. I didn't want there to be a plan. I believe you, Claire said. That's not what this is about. Then what is it about? She looked down at her hands. I don't want to be someone's accident. The word landed harder than she intended. Billy leaned forward. You're not an accident. Claire met his eyes. Then why didn't you tell me? He hesitated. Because he hadn't wanted to ruin it. Because he'd been afraid that naming the experiment would contaminate the quiet, fragile thing they were building. Because, for once, he'd wanted something that wasn't explained or evaluated or tracked. I didn't think it mattered anymore, he said finally. Claire nodded slowly. That's the problem. It mattered to me. Billy swallowed. I'm sorry. I know, she said. And I don't think you were being manipulative. But it makes me wonder whether I was just convenient. No, Billy said immediately. You are unexpected. She smiled faintly. That's not always comforting. They sat in silence, the cafe's soft noise filling the space neither of them rushed to close. I need some time, Claire said at last. To think. Billy nodded. Take all the time you need. She stood, hesitated, then leaned down and kissed his cheek, brief, careful, unresolved. I like you, she said quietly. That's what makes this hard. Then she left. Billy stayed seated long after her coffee cooled. He didn't need to guess who was responsible. He called his sisters that night and told them to come over. They arrived together, already defensive. We were just trying to help, the younger sister said the moment the door closed. You crossed a line, Billy replied calmly. She deserved to know the context, the older sister said. She deserved to hear it from me, Billy said. The younger sister folded her arms. You were drifting. I was choosing, Billy corrected. You weren't making it official. I was making it real, the older sister sighed. Billy, we were worried you were getting attached to something unstable. Billy laughed once, sharp and surprised. Unstable? You didn't even ask her out properly, the younger sister said. No labels, no structure. She didn't want structure, Billy said. Neither did I. That's not how relationships work. That's how this one worked, Billy said. Until you interfered. Silence followed. The younger sister looked at the floor. We didn't mean to hurt anyone. I know, Billy said. But you did. The older sister met his eyes. Are you saying you don't want our help anymore? Billy took a breath. I'm saying I don't want to be managed, he said. I appreciate everything you've done. Truly. But this stopped being an experiment weeks ago. The younger sister's voice softened. And if she leaves? Billy nodded once. Then that will be my outcome. Not a failed data point. They left quietly. The apartment felt empty afterward, not lonely, just cleared. Billy spent the next few days resisting every impulse to fix things immediately. He didn't text Claire explanations or defenses. He didn't send long messages clarifying intentions. He waited, not passively, intentionally. He went on the last scheduled date his sisters had arranged, out of obligation rather than hope. It ended early, kindly, without consequence. He removed the scoreboard from the fridge. He returned the clothes he'd never felt comfortable in. And then, on Sunday morning, his phone buzzed. Claire, do you want to walk? Billy stared at the message, heart steady but attentive. Billy, yes. They met by the river, coats zipped, hands in pockets. They walked for a while before either spoke. I don't think you were using me, Claire said finally. I think you were trying very hard not to be alone. Billy nodded. I was. And I don't think you lied, she continued. But I need to know that when you choose me, it's not because I'm quiet and convenient. He stopped walking. Claire turned. I choose you, Billy said, voice even. Because you don't make me perform. Because you let things be unfinished. Because when I'm with you, I don't feel like I'm waiting for something better to arrive. She searched his face. And, he added, because I want to be seen by you, not improved, not corrected, just known. Claire exhaled slowly. That's a very Billy answer, she said. I know. She smiled fully this time. I'm not ready to pretend this didn't happen, she said. But I'm willing to keep walking. Billy nodded. Me too. They resumed, steps aligning without effort. Behind them, the experiment lay in pieces. Charts abandoned, plans dismantled. Ahead of them, nothing was guaranteed. But for the first time, Billy didn't feel cursed. He felt accountable, and that somehow felt like freedom. Chapter 7, The Curse Breaks, sort of. The strangest part was how ordinary everything felt afterward. Billy had expected fallout, drama, second-guessing, some lingering sense of rupture after confronting his sisters and dismantling the experiment they had so carefully assembled. Instead, the days that followed were quiet in a way that felt earned rather than empty. He went to work. He bought groceries. He cooked meals that involved more than one pan. He walked. He thought. Claire didn't disappear, but she didn't rush back into the shape they'd been forming, either. They walked together twice that week, both times brief, both times honest. No pretending the interruption hadn't happened. No rushing to smooth it over. Billy found that he respected her more for it. On Friday evening, his phone rang. His older sister's name filled the screen. Billy considered letting it go to voicemail, not out of spite, just caution. But he answered. "Hey," he said. "Hey," she replied. Her voice sounded different, less certain. "Do you have a minute?" "I do. We'd like to come by. Both of us." Billy closed his eyes briefly. "Okay." They arrived without their usual energy. No bags, no charts, no visible agenda. They sat at the kitchen table, the same one where they had once outlined categories and outcomes like a boardroom strategy session. The younger sister spoke first. "We messed up." Billy waited. "We thought," she continued, "that if we fixed the logistics, the rest would follow. Like you were a problem with variables." His older sister nodded. "And we forgot that you're not a project." Billy leaned back in his chair. "I never needed fixing." "We know that now," the older sister said quietly. The younger sister picked at the edge of the table. "I didn't like feeling unnecessary." Billy looked at her. "You weren't, but you stopped needing us." He considered that. "I stopped needing management," he said. "I still need you." She swallowed. "I think," Billy added gently, "you're both used to being the ones who push, and I'm used to being pushed. This time, I just didn't want to move that way anymore." The older sister exhaled. "We thought we were helping you get chosen." Billy shook his head. "I needed to choose myself." Silence followed, not strained, not awkward, just real. The younger sister laughed suddenly, softly. "You know what the worst part is?" "What?" "You were doing better once we stopped interfering." Billy smiled. "I know." They stayed a while longer, talking about neutral things. Work, their parents, the fact that the younger sister was thinking about changing careers again. When they left, there were hugs, not apologetic, not triumphant, just familial. That night, Billy texted Claire. "Billy, I talked to my sisters." "Claire." "And?" "Billy, I'm officially no longer a group project." Her reply came a minute later. "Claire, that sounds like a promotion." Billy laughed out loud. They met the next day without ceremony. No cafe, no river walk, just a long stretch of sidewalk that didn't seem to care what they decided. "I don't want to pretend I wasn't hurt," Claire said as they walked. "I wouldn't want you to," Billy replied. "But," she continued, "I also don't want to punish you for letting other people speak for you before you knew how." He nodded. "That's fair." They stopped at a corner, waiting for the light to change. "I've spent most of my life being agreeable," Billy said. "I thought that made me easy to be with. Turns out, it just made me hard to know." Claire studied him. "You're not hard to know. I'm learning to be clearer," he said. "Even when it risks something." She smiled. "That's new." "It is." They crossed the street together. Later, sitting on a low wall with takeout containers balanced between them, Claire asked, "Do you still think you're cursed?" Billy considered the question seriously. "No," he said finally. "I think I was quiet in a world that rewards noise, and I let people decide what that meant. And now I decide," he said. "And sometimes that means being disappointed, but it also means being honest." Claire nudged his shoulder with hers. "I like this version of you." "It's still me," Billy said. "Just less edited." She laughed. "Good." That night, Billy lay in bed longer than usual, staring at the ceiling. He thought about all the moments he'd misinterpreted as failure. All the times he'd assumed disinterest where there had simply been misalignment. All the energy he'd spent wondering what invisible flaw he carried instead of asking what he actually wanted. The curse theory didn't hold up anymore. Not because he'd suddenly become irresistible, but because he finally understood something simple and stubbornly overlooked. Being wanted wasn't the same as being seen. And for the first time in his adult life, Billy felt visible. Not because he'd been polished or positioned or presented correctly, but because he'd stopped stepping aside for other people's expectations. The story wasn't over. It wasn't resolved, but it was his, and that, more than anything else, felt like proof that the curse, if it had ever existed at all, had quietly lost its power. Chapter 8, Grand Gesture, quietly done. Billy did not believe in grand gestures. Not because he thought they were meaningless, but because they always seemed to belong to someone else, someone louder, quicker, more certain. Grand gestures required certainty. They required confidence that the gesture would be received as intended, that it would land on solid ground instead of shattering on impact. Billy preferred precision. So when he realized he wanted to make something clear to Claire, Something unmistakable. Something that couldn't be confused with patience or passivity. He didn't picture flowers or speeches or sudden declarations in crowded places. He pictured something small, deliberate, and unmistakably his. The idea came to him on a Tuesday evening while he was washing dishes. He dried his hands slowly, considering it from every angle the way he did with most decisions. Not because he doubted it, but because he wanted to be sure it aligned with who he was becoming, not who he used to be. He texted Claire. Billy, are you free Saturday morning? Claire, I think so. Why? Billy, I want to show you something. Claire, that sounds suspicious. Billy, only mildly. Claire, okay. Mild suspicion accepted. Saturday arrived cool and bright, the kind of morning that made the city feel briefly cooperative. Billy met Claire outside her building at 9. She wore a soft gray scarf and carried coffee for both of them, which made him smile. You remembered, he said, accepting the cup. You take it black, she replied. Very serious. It's practical. She arched an eyebrow. I'm learning that's your defense for everything. They walked without direction at first, falling into their usual rhythm. Billy noticed, with a quiet satisfaction, that he no longer felt the need to fill every silence. He didn't feel like he was waiting for permission to speak. Eventually, they turned toward the library. Claire glanced at the building, then at him. Are we studying? In a way, Billy said. Inside, the library smelled like paper and time. Billy led her past the main floor, up the wide staircase, and into a quieter wing she clearly hadn't explored before. He stopped in front of a small bulletin board tucked near a reading room. Claire frowned slightly. Okay, now I'm curious. Billy took a breath. I used to come here a lot, he said. Years ago. Before work got busy. Before I decided it was easier to listen than participate. He gestured to the board. Pinned neatly were flyers, handwritten, typed, colorful, plain. Local writing group, Saturdays, community walk, NO destination. Reading aloud, just for fun. I signed up for 3 things. Billy continued. And then I never showed up. Claire turned to him. Why? He shrugged. I told myself I didn't need to take up space. She studied his face. And now I know that being quiet doesn't mean being invisible, he said. And that wanting something doesn't make me selfish. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a folded flyer. Writing aloud, just for fun first session. Today, I signed up again, Billy said. And this time, I'm going. Claire's expression softened, something like surprise warming into understanding. You right, she said. I always have, Billy replied. I just never let anyone hear it. She smiled slowly. Is this the something you wanted to show me? Part of it, he said. The other part is that I want you to come with me. Not as support. Not as an observer. Just as someone who's there. Claire didn't answer immediately. They stood there, the quiet of the library holding them gently instead of pressing. Billy, she said finally. This isn't small. He laughed under his breath. It feels small. That's because it's honest, she said. And honesty is loud when you're not used to it. He nodded. I'm not asking you to decide anything today. I just want you to know that I'm choosing to be seen. With you, not because of you. She stepped closer. That's a very specific distinction. It matters. It does, she agreed. They attended the reading group together. Billy read third. His hands shook a little at first, but his voice steadied as he went on. The words weren't flashy. They were careful, observant, quietly emotional. The kind of writing that didn't demand attention but rewarded it. Claire watched him from across the room, eyes intent, smile unmistakably proud. When it ended, Billy felt something he hadn't expected. Not relief, completion. They walked out into the late morning light afterward, both quieter than usual. That, Claire said, was brave. Billy considered the word. It felt necessary. She took his hand without ceremony. Billy didn't tense. He didn't question it. He simply let it happen. They walked a few blocks before Claire spoke again. You know, she said, your sisters would probably hate this. Billy laughed. There were no charts, no witnesses, no scorekeeping. Just you, she said, squeezing his hand lightly. Showing up. He stopped walking. Claire turned to face him. I'm not good at sweeping declarations, Billy said, but I'm good at staying, and choosing, and being clear, even when it's uncomfortable. She waited. I want to be with you, he said. Not as a project, not as a coincidence, as a decision. Claire's smile was slow, certain. Good, she said, because I don't want to be an accident either. They stood there for a moment, city moving around them, unbothered. No applause, no sudden music, just 2 people aligned. Later that evening, Billy texted his sisters. Billy, I'm okay. Younger sister. That's it? Billy, that's everything. He set his phone down and returned to the quiet of his apartment. Quiet that no longer felt like absence. The curse, he realized, hadn't been broken by effort or strategy or interference. It had been undone by something far simpler. Billy had finally stepped forward. Not loudly, Not all at once, just enough to be chosen. And enough, at last, to choose back. Chapter 9, Proof. Billy Granger did not wake up one morning transformed. There was no sudden confidence, no sharpened jawline in the mirror, no cinematic certainty about the future waiting patiently at the edge of his bed. What he woke up with was quieter. He woke up with intention. Sunday morning arrived gently. Light filtered through the blinds. The city outside moved at its usual pace, unaware that Billy's internal landscape had shifted in a way that felt permanent. His phone lay on the nightstand. No missed messages. No expectations. Just space. Billy stretched, made coffee, and stood by the window while it brewed. He noticed, with mild amusement, that he no longer checked his phone reflexively, no longer braced himself for the small disappointment of silence. The quiet had changed shape. It wasn't absence anymore. It was room. His phone buzzed as if on cue. Claire, morning. Billy, morning. Claire. Walk later? Billy, always. They met mid-afternoon. The sky overcast in a way that made everything feel softened at the edges. Claire wore a long coat and that same gray scarf, the one Billy had started associating with steadiness. They didn't rush. They walked without destination, conversation drifting between trivial observations and comfortable pauses. At one point, Claire stopped abruptly. "Can I ask you something slightly dangerous?" she said. Billy smiled. "Those are my favorite kinds." She studied him. "Are you still seeing other people?" He answered without hesitation. "No." "Because of me?" she asked. "Because of me," Billy said. "I realized I don't like dividing my attention when something feels aligned." She nodded, absorbing this. "I stopped too." They resumed walking. A few blocks later, Claire spoke again. "You know this doesn't come with guarantees." Billy nodded. Neither did being alone. She laughed softly. "Fair." They stopped near the river, leaning against the railing, watching the water move with its steady indifference. "I used to think I was unlucky," Billy said, "or unremarkable in the wrong way. And now?" Claire asked. "Now I think I was just waiting to be honest," he said. "With myself first." She turned toward him. "That's not nothing." "I know." He didn't reach for her hand immediately. When he did, it wasn't tentative. It was calm, assured. Claire intertwined her fingers with his. That evening, Billy invited his sisters over. Not for a meeting, for dinner. They arrived suspicious. The younger sister scanned the apartment. "Why do I feel like this is a trap?" "Because you're dramatic," Billy said, smiling. They sat at the table, eating food Billy had cooked himself. Simple, deliberate, good. "So," the older sister said carefully, "how are things?" Billy considered the question. "Good," he said. "Not perfect, not solved, just good." The younger sister squinted. "That's suspiciously vague." "It's accurate," Billy replied. "And Claire?" the older sister asked. Billy smiled. "She's choosing me. I'm choosing her. That's all either of us is promising right now." The younger sister leaned back, arms crossed. "You didn't even need us." Billy shook his head. "I did. Just not the way you thought." Silence settled. Then the younger sister sighed. "Okay, fine. You win." "I didn't win," Billy said. "I arrived." They laughed. Later, after they left, Billy sat alone for a moment, letting the day settle. His phone buzzed again. "Claire. Did you survive sibling dinner?" Billy, "Barely." "Claire, I knew it." "Billy, wanna come over?" "No expectations." "Claire, I like your phrasing." "Yes." When she arrived, there was no performance, no ceremony. They sat on the couch, legs touching, conversation meandering. At one point, Claire rested her head against his shoulder. Billy didn't tense. He didn't wonder what it meant. He simply stayed. Proof, he realized, wasn't a milestone or a declaration or even a relationship status. Proof was waking up without dread. Proof was choosing without being pushed. Proof was letting someone see you, not because you'd been optimized or improved, but because you'd finally stopped hiding behind patience. Billy Granger was still quiet, still adaptable, still someone who liked silence and solitude. But now, when he shared those things, it wasn't because he thought that was all he deserved. It was because he wanted to. And that made all the difference. The curse, if it had ever existed, was gone. Not shattered. Not dramatically undone. Just gently disproven. One honest choice at a time. Chapter 10. Afterward, quietly, Billy Granger did not fall in love all at once. There was no precise moment he could point to and say, "There, that's when it happened." No internal fireworks. No sudden certainty that reorganized his entire sense of self. Instead, love arrived the way most true things had lately, incrementally, without announcement, by staying. It showed up on a Tuesday night when Claire texted him a photo of a crooked bookshelf she was assembling, followed by, "This feels like something you'd be good at." It showed up when Billy brought over his toolbox and they spent an hour debating whether the wall was crooked or the shelf was, and neither of them felt the need to win. It showed up when he realized he had started picturing her absence not as quiet, but as a gap. Months passed. Not dramatically, not in montage-worthy fashion, just days stacking. Billy kept writing. The reading group became a fixture. something he attended even when he felt tired or uncertain. He didn't read every week. Sometimes he just listened. Sometimes Claire came. Sometimes she didn't. The point was that he showed up. Claire stayed. Not constantly, not without her own hesitations, but steadily. They learned the contours of each other's solitude. They learned when to leave space and when to cross it. They argued once, really argued, about something mundane and revealing, whether silence after disagreement meant cooling off or avoidance. Billy had gone quiet instinctively. Claire had waited. Then she had said calmly, "I need you to tell me whether you're thinking or disappearing." Billy had taken a breath. "I'm thinking," he'd said. "But I can say that out loud now." She'd smiled, small but sincere. "Thank you." That, Billy realized later, was love too. Not the absence of friction, but the willingness to translate yourself when it mattered. His sisters adjusted. The younger one oscillated between pride and mild resentment before settling comfortably into smug approval. "I always knew you'd get there," she said one evening, stealing food from his plate. "You tried to drag me," Billy replied. Details. The older sister watched more quietly. One night, as they washed dishes side by side after dinner, she said, "You seem steadier." Billy nodded. "I feel like I'm standing where I mean to be." She smiled. "That suits you." The curse theory became a joke, occasionally resurrected at holidays, referenced with exaggerated seriousness. "Careful," the younger sister would say. "That's how it starts." Billy would just smile, because he knew better now. One autumn evening, months after the experiment had officially dissolved into irrelevance, Billy and Claire sat on the floor of his apartment, backs against the couch, eating takeout and listening to the hum of the city through the window. Claire traced a line on the back of his hand absent-mindedly. "You're quiet," she observed. "I usually am," Billy said. "Yes," she replied, smiling. "But this is the good kind." He thought about that, about how often he'd mistaken his own stillness for absence, how often others had too. "I used to think," he said slowly, "that love was something that happened to people who knew how to ask for it properly." Claire tilted her head. "And now I think it happens when you stop assuming you're a background character in your own life." She considered this. "That sounds like something you wrote." "Maybe I did," Billy said. "I'm learning to keep the things I make." She leaned in and kissed him. Unhurried, familiar, real. Later, lying awake beside her, Billy stared at the ceiling, listening to her breathe. The quiet no longer asked him questions. It simply held him. Proof, he realized, had never been about being chosen by someone else. It was about choosing to remain present when the world didn't demand it. About speaking when silence would have been easier. About letting yourself take up the amount of space your life actually required. Billy Granger was still quiet, still adaptable, still someone who liked crowds well enough and solitude just as much. But he was no longer invisible. Not because he had changed who he was, but because he had stopped treating himself like someone optional. And that, more than any plan, any strategy, any well-meaning interference, had made all the difference. The end did not arrive with certainty. It arrived with continuity, with 2 coffee mugs in the sink, with a coat left by the door, with a life that did not need to be proven to anyone anymore. Billy closed his eyes and stayed.